This is episode 164 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Mike Cobb. Mike is the CEO of ECI Development, one of Latin America's most exciting diversified resort development companies, providing inspired lifestyles for adventurous souls. And Mike is the author of the new book, How to Buy Your Home Overseas. We're going to talk international living and international development. Mike, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, good to be with you. Episode 164. You've been doing this a while.
Yeah, been at it a while, but as I was saying to you before, we haven't gone international very much. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you about this and your 30 years of experience going outside of America. But where did it all start? When was the first time that you remember real estate being a thing that you thought was going to play a role in your life?
Wow. That would have been 1993. So 31 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So I went to Belize with a buddy of mine. He was working. He's an asset protection attorney. He was setting up trusts for doctors down there. He said, "Hey, you want to go to Belize?" Tell the story. So I'm sitting I was in the computer business. I'm sitting in my cubicle in Springfield, Virginia.
Yes, I'll go.
It was funny is that he calls me up and, he goes, "Hey, Cobster, what are you doing this weekend?" It was like, I think it was a Tuesday. I said, "I don't know why." He goes, "Do you want to go to Belize with me? I got an extra ticket. We're going down Thursday, come home Sunday." And I'm sitting there and like, this is pre-Google days, right? Okay.
Did you even know where it was?
No. So finally I have to fess up. I'm like, all right, where are we going again?
Yeah.
So I went down with him, had a great time. I said, "Dude, the next time you're coming down, let me know. I'll come back again." So the second trip down might've been 2 or 3 months later because he was going pretty frequently. And we found these 2 condos right off the ocean. They were a beautiful ocean view. They were one off the ocean, but looked out across a big area, and we bought them. Right? We bought them, and so that was 1993. Ocean. I call them ocean front, but I mean one off the ocean, but still, direct ocean.
How developed was Belize at that time? Because that 30 years ago, I don't think there was too much development, at least, of course, not to the level that it is now.
It's true. Then Ambergris. So Belize is a Caribbean country. It's on Central America, right? And so the country itself is about 180 miles up and down, about 70, 80 miles wide. Then there's this tiny little island off the coast, and we'll come back to this later because I think this is important for the real estate investor. But we ended up buying on this little island, Ambergris Key, off the coast, and there was nothing. I mean, it was a tiny little town, 2,000 people, maybe. Fishing village. All the streets were sand, not a single piece of pavement on the entire island. Right?
Wow.
So it's changed a lot in 30 years, and we watched it and facilitated. But
when you guys bought those properties, were you thinking investment, or you were thinking of, well, like, now we have a place to go every time, we can come every 2 months and stay in our own place?
We, both actually, because he was coming down a lot more than I was, but for me it was an easy trip. I could hop on a plane, be in Belize by lunchtime on a Thursday, for example, and then I could catch the later flight out on Sunday, get home at midnight. So I had just 2 days off. I could get like really kind of 3-4 days of vacation, which was tremendous. And so I was using it, but right out of the gates, we said, no, we're going to turn this into there was no Airbnb. Like, we were running ads, him in the Pittsburgh Post Gazette, me in the Washington Post, little classified ads in the, for rent, $800 a week or whatever it was. And anyway, so it was a business immediately as a real estate investment, but fun too, right? I mean, go to Belize. I mean, right. The banking legislation in Belize is solid, and the regulatory agency is thorough, and I would say maybe pounding.
I'm
on the board, and
and in general, it's in the assistance of tourism, which is good for everybody in the area. Much less what people consider gentrification of areas, but it brings much more money to the area, especially back then.
It does. It's liquidity to the developers. And it's not just U.S. developers, it's Canadian developers,
of course,
Belizean developers. It's local developers who want to sell to a foreigner, right? That's the key, right? That's that piece. And so the relationship with the bank and the regulatory bodies is good. But again, they are thorough, solid, and they basically take their instructions from the U.S. regulators. I mean, the U.S. helps them regulate the banks in the country. So
It's better though, isn't it better that it's stricter? Because if not, then it's gonna you have an uneven playing field all around.
100%. I like the tough regulatory environment. Two reasons. One, it's the right thing to do. Let me just say that, right?
Yeah,
Banking is one of those things where it's the right thing to do. I mean, you're taking care of other people's money. There's a big custodial fiduciary
for sure.
responsibility when you're taking care of other people's money. And so having stringent, strong regulatory systems yeah, definitely does that. The other thing is it is a high hurdle to somebody else coming into the
Yeah,
business.
right. You have
Too,
to
right?
really, dot the I's, cross the
Yeah.
T's. And I think that that makes it more viable as a product for you. Like you said, that's why you've been at it 20 years, because you knew,
Right.
hey, look, you've presented all the hoops. We're going to jump through them all, say thank you, and then get up and running.
And we did. Now, as it relates to the relationship between ECI and the bank, I am actually the regulatory authorities do not let me. I'm on the credit committee. I'm chairman
Right.
of the credit
Yeah,
committee.
yeah.
I have to absolutely absolve myself from any discussions of financing any of our properties.
Right.
Right. So the
That makes
rest of the
sense.
folks in the management committee. So no, again, it's a good regulatory environment. We don't actually finance our company because that would be related party transactions. So we have no related party transactions. I really kind of keep two hats, and I do a pretty
Yeah.
good job of keeping them separate.
Let's pivot a little bit to your book, because I want to give people some help about how to buy a home
Yes.
overseas.
Yeah.
And this originally, this was part of your plan from 30 years ago, is how are people going to get over there? But are we talking about vacation homes, new residents, or all of it? Hey, how can I get something out of the country? Is it going to be hard? Is it different in every country? And I don't really know the answers.
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's certainly what I'm going to call easier paths and more difficult paths, right?
Yeah.
You want to be a developer in the US, that's a lot harder than just buying a condo or, buying a multifamily, right? As opposed to developing a multifamily, right? So I think depending on what your level of activity and challenge is, I mean, there's things that are a lot easier, a lot more difficult. Let's just stay with the easy stuff if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that probably makes sense for most.
Helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so I think that of all the countries in the region that is the easiest, Belize is probably the easiest. English is the official language.
Yeah.
It's huge. And Spanish, Portuguese in Brazil, but Spanish everywhere else, right? And it's also Belize is also common law as opposed to civil law. And so, in these Spanish speaking countries, Mexico down, all contracts are legal in Spanish. You mentioned, everything from the novice to the big time syndicators, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The novices actually will probably do the best because they're going to come with the humble approach anyway. Like they don't have the experience to say, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The danger for many people, especially those with a lot of real estate investment experience in the US, is a sense of confidence here. Don't get me wrong. I think experience is confidence on your home turf, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing, right? But when you go outside your home country, you are in. It's like Dorothy. She gets swept up in the house, and bam, she comes down there, and she walks outside. She got Toto, and she says, "We're not in Kansas anymore,
Yeah.
right? There are no talking scarecrows and lions, but it is almost that different, right? For a place to do business, whether it's civil law, Spanish, the different rules, regulations." But the biggest difference, Jonathan, is this. When you work in the US and Canada, but North America, US and Canada, you are working in a seller beware environment. Think of all the regulatory laws and agencies and consumer advocacy groups like Ralph Nader, right? Lemon laws, right? You got all of this stuff that protects you, the consumer, from the evil seller, right? When you go to the developing world, you can go to France and probably not be this way, but if you went anywhere in the developing world,
Yeah.
Bali, Central America, Africa, whatever, right? You are moving into the land of buyer beware. And we as consumers coming out of North America simply do not know how to operate, transact in that environment. We don't. And anybody who thinks they do is sorely mistaken. It is a different world, as different as Dorothy and Oz from Kansas.
Yeah.
And that was the genesis of the book, by the way. I mean, look, most of these mistakes I made. The good news for me And for many people is, I wasn't a real estate investor. I was a computer salesperson who kind of worked my way into it, and have always approached everything with this incredible humility. And truly, humility is our strongest personal characteristic when we invest overseas. We need to ask the dumbest questions. We need to, like we don't know anything, because we probably don't. I mean, right? Confidence in the U.S. is bravado or hubris outside of North America.
Yeah, and the consequences could be so huge from just one assuming that you know something or thinking that it's going to work the same. I mean, that just may never happen. You could, bomb all of your money on something like that.